Join me this week at the crack of dawn, because it's the big day. My machine is finally coming. The downside is it means that I need to get up early, get up on a roof, and strip it. Which I thought would take me maybe, an hour. I've got 3 sheets of corrugated metal to remove. How hard could that be? It turns out really hard. Over the years where there's been capillary leaks, where the rubber membrane of the roofing bolts have failed, the solution has been just to cover the bolt heads with silicone. The problem with that is all it actually serves to do is trap moisture into the bolt. You can't get a good seal between the rubber membrane of the bolt and the metal roof, so you're just creating a further capillary point for water to inject itself through the roof. And then when you come to take the bolt out, you can't, because the silicone is bound around the bolt head, so you just can't get purchase. So I'm not going to lie, at this point, I was kind of starting to panic. The problem with having a book delivery that has a crane or high ab offload is the penalties for not being ready for it are quite significant. So I'm trying to think of a new game plan, like how can I get these bolts out? As it turned out, just brute force and using whatever I could to break the silicone seal. At 8:20 with just over an hour and a bit to go, I'm really starting to panic, so filming took a low priority from this point. Sadly, I am working on my own because this delivery had been rearranged so many times, I couldn't actually get any help. But as you can see, I did manage to get the roof panels off, and now I'm just stripping the internal lining. So these are fibrous cement boards, and they're bound within a rebate in each of the purlins, which means you have to drop one purlin, slide it along, drop the panel, and onto the next one. Sadly, I wasn't able to keep any of these panels. There was some rodent damage, let's call it, that had weakened the panels, and as I was pulling them out, they were just splitting down the middle, so I'm going to have to find some alternative for when I go to put them back. Here we go. The roof is finally off. And I just thought I'd show you some of the rodent damage. Like, I haven't actually seen this before, but half of the purlin has been eaten away. I suspect there's more instances of this than just these ones. Just something to bear in mind when I think about the long-term health of this structure. 10 o'clock was our go time, so I was very happy to be able to see daylight through the roof. I honestly did not think we were going to make it, so huge sigh of relief at this point. So just doing the last few things here to be ready. The machine's going to be dropped on dollies, so I need a clean floor, which kind of seems hilarious given the state of the concrete slab. It's not flat, as you can see, but the last thing you want when you're trying to move 3 ton of machine is something getting caught under the wheel of the dolly. What I wasn't to know was that the driver had been pulled over by DVSA, and he was stuck in an inspection queue and wouldn't be with us for at least another 4 hours.
In true English fashion, the weather doesn't know whether to be sunny or to rain. So this was the one day that we've had in the last 3 weeks where it's not been snowing or raining or projected to rain. And of course, as soon as I started stripping the roof this morning, it started raining. Just hope I've left him enough space. The dimensions I got from Fell there say that I only need this much on the width, that much on the length, but let's see what happens when the lorry actually turns up and whether the guy is happy to offload. Excited.
So it is 4 hours later than we thought it was going to be, but I was so happy to see that lorry roll up the drive. Literally grinning from ear to ear. I'd forgotten all about the stress of stripping that roof in a rush this morning. You've got to hand it to these guys. They had just spent the better part of 8 hours sitting in a lorry, and they wasted absolutely no time getting on with the lift. Literally 30 seconds after they were here, unwrapping, strops on. As you can imagine, this is a sleepy little industrial estate, so roof coming off and a crane arriving kind of attracted a bit of attention. We had a few watchers. This is not something I've done before, so it was kind of interesting to watch the guys try and find the center of gravity of the machine. I guess the weight is kind of distributed eccentrically. You've got the big machining head at one end, not very much the other, and then you've got the vacuum pump and the control unit positioned unequally on the bed as well. So you want the machine to lift in a flat plane as it's going up, and that means getting the length of the different strops and the crane jib in the right position so that the machine will lift like that. It was very fun to watch. I wasn't the only one. So I guess this is around the time that I realised that this was actually happening. Like, this machine was being lifted in the air, dropped through the roof, and it was going to be mine. I'm kind of disappointed by the framing of the GoPro. I had one shot at getting it right. I couldn't hold these guys up, given the day they'd had. So I had one shot, I didn't quite get it, but hopefully the rest will make up for it.
You've got 9 inches.
How are we looking coming down now?
You're good. You're good up until
Everywhere.
about another 2 feet.
And then how much more do I need there?
Maybe 6 inches.
Oh, we should be alright.
Yeah, you're spot on now here.
You go down now then, yeah?
Yeah, you're fine.
So what we're talking about here is the machine is kind of L-shaped, and at my end there is a portion that juts out at just about a foot.
Look at that.
At his end there's a portion that juts out about 2 feet, and they're separated vertically by about 2 foot. So he's got to get it down across to him and then drop down again to get my end clear. It's kind of like a big, heavy, dangerous game of Tetris.
Good here. Okay. Yeah. Just need to get the dollies lined up in a sec.
If you can get the dollies on the frame, not the webbing feet, if you can.
Okay. I don't know if they're going to be tall enough.
You know which one's the other side when you come down there now? Okay now?
And now the last thing is just to get the machine distributed evenly on some big dollies. I need to be able to move the machine once it's on the ground, so with the machinery placing service, it's like to the ground is one thing, getting it into position is another. I don't know exactly where this machine is going yet, so I didn't want to pay for that service today. So having the machine placed on casters gives me the flexibility to move it at my convenience.
Yeah. Well, cheapskates are Chinese, really, isn't it?
And that's it. She's on the ground. She's mine. I'll spare you the rest of the dialogue, but needless to say, we spend the next 10-15 minutes talking about machines and dropping them, running them, buying them, selling them, the things that people talk about when they have a geeky interest in different machines, but I'll spare you all that. Sadly, we couldn't chat for long because I had to get the roof back on. Thankfully, one of the guys that stayed to watch helped me get the roof back up, and that cut the time it took to do it in half, which, given what you can hear now, was very lucky. We had a storm roll in not 2 hours later despite that sun. I used my last bit of energy to wheel the machine into kind of rough position of where I think it will go. But that was it for me, pretty much for the week. The next time I made it into the workshop, I found a power cut. Kind of super frustrating, but also really handy. It forced me to do the things I'd been avoiding doing for a long time, like actually cleaning up. So that's what I cracked on with. With the power back on, I set about doing the things I needed to do to enable me to run the dust extraction. So while this wall is not going to be perfect, I did at least want it to be painted before I started mounting Unistrut on it. So I thought I'd give it a quick blast, just once over with the airless sprayer. I will come back and fill and tape all the joins on this unfinished drywall, but for now this will at least brighten the place up a little bit. And then right around this time I made a decision. I'm not sure everyone's going to like it, but it made sense, and that is I'm going to paint all the beams white. Cutting them in just takes way too long, And now I can jump straight into Unistruct. This bandsaw was a bit of an impulse purchase about 9 months ago, and it's sat in the box ever since, but completely fortuitous because it made an absolute dream of this job. I had so many lengths of Unistruct to cut, lengths of threaded rod, things like that, that it just came in clutch and so much safer and easier than using an angle grinder. I'm sure I'm going to come into some flack in the comments section for using a CNC machine as a workbench, but I am on the spoil board, and that will be getting replaced. And because this has taken up the space of the old assembly table, I don't actually have anywhere else at the moment. Working with Unistruct gives me real Meccano vibes. I love that I can get pre-assembled in a kind of one-piece flow fashion. I honestly kind of feel that Unistruct is slept on by a lot of woodworkers, joinery shops, anyone with a workshop really. It's relatively inexpensive compared to some of the alternatives. When it comes to things like running dust extraction, running pipes, running cables, it's completely reconfigurable and your tolerances are high. Like, you don't have to get everything perfectly nailed in. You'll see a little bit later on, I just strike laser lines, get it roughly there, and all the fine adjustment is done in the pipe clips themselves. That makes it really quick to work with, and that's kind of the essence when you're trying to just get shop infrastructure done.
Guess you put all these up and forgot to hit record.
Just showing you here the combination of Unistruct components that are required to hang a pipe or a ducting clip directly from a piece of Unistruct. If there's any interest in utilizing Unistruct in a workshop like this, please do let me know in the comments, and I might just do a video on just Unistruct. There's plenty more that I need to do in the shop, and if you think it'd be interesting, let me know. Probably see now what I mean about tolerances. Like, I'm just tapping the bracket across until I line up with the laser line. Vertically, I can just wind that length of threaded rod in and out until I get the perfect level. The ends of the ducting tend to get a little bit abused in transport, and they're really fragile and they kind of get kinked, but just a pair of pliers and you can pull those back into shape. It's really no big deal. If I have one piece of advice to give that I'm sure everyone's going to slate me for in the comments as well, if you're working with this ducting, please wear gloves. It is super sharp, and I was lucky not to hurt myself here, as always. This is something you definitely should not do. This is not a lesson for legal reasons, this is just a joke. But it is possible to get 3-meter lengths of 300mm duct up on your own. It just takes a bit of creativity and dropping them on your head a few times until you work it out. Don't recommend. And that's just about where I ran out of energy. And I think this video is too long now. Next week, the focus will be getting the rest of the dust extraction up, running not just to the CNC machine, but also to my other joinery machines, my spindle molders, my thicknesses, things like that. Because I want to get making things. Like, I'm conscious you guys might be bored of watching a man paint and clean a shop by now, so bear with me. We'll get to making some stuff real soon. As always, thanks so much for watching. See you next time.